There is a particular kind of tired that has nothing to do with sleep. You feel it at 9 p.m, scrolling through a phone you don't even remember picking up, sitting in a room you haven't really looked at in weeks. You have done everything today, and somehow you have done nothing at all. In Japan, this exhaustion has a shape. It's not a mystery, and it's not a personal failing. It's the quiet cost of habits most of the Western world has stopped questioning. Today, 10 of them, the small, invisible ways we exhaust ourselves without noticing, and the Japanese philosophies that offer a gentler way through. 1. Doing everything at once. You're eating breakfast, scrolling the news, replying to a text, half listening to a podcast, all inside 4 minutes. None of it lands. None of it is remembered. Multitasking feels like a skill. It's actually a slow leak in your attention. In Japan, there's a phrase for the opposite, Ichigo Ichie, one time, one meeting from the tea ceremony, where each gathering deserves your whole attention, because it will never happen quite the same way again. The Western instinct says doing 5 things badly beats doing 1 thing well. It just feels productive. Ichigo Ichie asks something harder. Give this one moment everything and let the rest wait. Pick one task. Close the other tabs, literally and mentally. Notice how much clearer your head is by the end. Because we were never exhausted by doing too much, only by doing too many things half-heartedly. All at once. 2. Keeping things just in case there's a drawer in your home, you know the one. Cables for devices you no longer own. A shirt from a different version of yourself. Kept not from love, but because letting go feels irresponsible. In Japan, there's a practical answer. Danshari: refuse what you don't need, dispose of what you don't use, separate yourself from the attachment to things. It's not about owning nothing, it's about owning only what earns its place. The Western instinct hoards for a future that may never arrive. Danshari asks a more honest question. Does this serve who you are now, not who you might become? If not, letting go isn't neglect, it's clarity. Tonight, open one drawer. Ask that question of each item out loud if it helps. What you keep will mean more. Because every just-in-case object is an unfinished decision, and unfinished decisions are their own kind of exhaustion. 3. Comparing yourself to everyone else, you open your phone, and within 10 seconds someone else's kitchen, body, or vacation has quietly rearranged how you feel about your own life. It happens dozens of times a day, barely registered. In Japan, there's an image for this: Oubaitori cherry, apricot, peach, plum, each blooming at its own pace, none early or late, none behind. Comparing them would be meaningless, they were never running the same race. The Western habit treats life as one timeline everyone races along, where someone else's bloom makes your bud feel like failure. Oubaitori removes the racetrack entirely. Your pace was never a flaw. When comparison hits that small drop in your chest, name it gently: different flower, different season. It won't erase the feeling, but it stops you mistaking someone else's timing for a verdict on yours. A life spent measuring itself against others isn't being lived, it's being audited. 4. Hiding every flaw and mistake the chipped mug shoved to the back of the cabinet. The failed plan erased from the calendar like it never happened. We're taught to hide the crack, not look at it. Japan has an art form built on the opposite instinct, Kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold-dusted lacquer, so the break becomes the most visible, most beautiful part. The crack isn't disguised, it's illuminated. The Western approach to failure is concealment, smooth it over, pretend it always worked. Kintsugi says the break is part of the story now, and telling the truth about it makes the object or the person more valuable, not less. This isn't about broadcasting every mistake. It's refusing to hide from your own history. Next time something in your life breaks, resist burying it. Let it be visible. Let it be gold instead of gone. A life with no visible cracks isn't a life that went well, it's one that went untold. 5. Consuming without thought, you order the extra portion you didn't need. You click buy on something that doesn't quite fit who you thought you were. None of these moments feel like much alone that's the problem. In Japan, there's a word said almost as a reflex when something is wasted, Mottainai, a pang of regret. Not about money, but about disrespecting the effort behind a thing. The Western habit treats abundance as permission. If there's more, use more. Mottainai treats abundance as reason for more care, because everything carried effort to reach you a farmer's season, someone's labour. Before discarding, buying, or over-ordering, pause one breath and ask what this cost to exist. Not in price, in effort. You'll finish the plate, wear the item, use the last of the bottle instead of replacing it early. Waste isn't just an environmental cost, it's a quiet, constant disrespect for effort and disrespect. Even small and repeated is its own kind of tiring. 6. Filling every silence a quiet room. A pause in conversation. An empty afternoon. For many of us, these don't feel peaceful, they feel like something's wrong, so we reach for a podcast, a scroll, anything to fill the gap. In Japanese thought, there's a concept for that gap itself, the deliberate, meaningful space between things, not absence to be fixed. In a room, is the space that lets a single object be seen clearly. In conversation, it's the pause that lets what was said actually land. The Western instinct hears silence as a void that reflects poorly on us if left unfilled. Treats it as the frame that makes everything else visible, the rest between notes that lets you hear the song. Leave one space unfilled today. One silence you don't rush to fix. 1 hour with no scroll. Let it sit there, uncomfortable at first. A life with no in it isn't full, it's just loud. 7. Chasing newness over what already works. A leather bag with a softened, worn strap goes in the donation pile not because it's broken, but because a flawless replacement is one click away. Nothing has actually stopped working, it's just been ruled not good enough. In Japan, there's a worldview built on the opposite instinct, Wabi-Sabi, appreciating beauty in what is imperfect, aged, impermanent, a weathered bowl, an uneven ceramic rim, not flaws, but evidence of a life actually lived with the object. The Western instinct equates newness with worth. So anything worn starts to feel like a small failure. Wabi-Sabi says, the wear is the value proof something's been loved enough to age. Before replacing something that still works, ask whether the flaw is really a flaw or just a sign of use. Keep the worn bag. Let the sweater soften. Chasing newness forever means never once being satisfied with what's already, quietly, enough. 8. Demanding total transformation overnight. January 1st arrives with a plan to overhaul everything at once: diet, sleep, mindset starting Monday, abandoned by week 3. This all-or-nothing approach fails almost every time, not from lack of discipline, but because the scale was never sustainable. In Japan, there's a philosophy built on the opposite premise: Kaizen. Continuous improvement through small, steady steps rather than dramatic overhauls. The Western instinct turns change into a single dramatic event, one big before and after. Kaizen treats it as a practice so small at each step it barely feels like effort, which is exactly why it survives a real week. Shrink the goal until it feels almost embarrassingly small, not exercise every day. But put on your shoes. Let the smallness feel like nothing, that's the point. The version of you that changes permanently was never the one who transformed overnight. It was the one who kept showing up, one unremarkable step at a time. 9. Chasing approval instead of meaning. Did that promotion feel like you thought it would? The post that got the likes, but not the feeling you expected that moment. So much of modern life chases markers other people can see, while the quieter question, does this actually matter to you, goes unasked. In Japan, particularly in Okinawa, there's a concept for that question: Ikigai. A reason for being, not a grand purpose, but the small, specific things that make getting up worthwhile. It doesn't need an audience. The Western instinct ties worth to visibility unseen can feel like it didn't count. Ikigai needs no one else's validation. Its only measure is whether it's meaningful to you. Notice this week what you'd still do even if no one ever saw it, and give that more room. A life built entirely on being seen is exhausting in a way that never resolves. A life built on Ikigai doesn't need an audience to feel complete. 10. Staying indoors, plugged-in hours pass between 4 walls and a screen's glow, and by evening something feels off, not quite sadness, just a flatness a scroll never fixes. This is a life lived almost entirely indoors, disconnected from anything not backlit a cost we've stopped noticing, because it's become the default. In Japan, there's a practice for the alternative, Shinrin-Yoku, forest bathing, not hiking, simply being present among trees, letting the senses notice instead of a screen. The Western habit turns nature into a scheduled destination, a vacation, while ordinary days stay indoors. Shinrin-Yoku treats it as maintenance, something small and regular, like sleep. 10 unhurried minutes outside today, phone left behind. No destination, just noticing the air, the light, the sound underneath the usual noise. It won't fix everything. It isn't meant to. That indoor blankness isn't always something to think your way out of. Sometimes it's a body that has forgotten what it feels like to be outside. None of these 10 things are dramatic. No single one will change your life on its own. That was never the point. What they share is this: they are quiet refusals to slow down, and slowing down turns out to be the condition for a full life, not the opposite of one. You don't need to adopt all 10 tomorrow. Pick the one that made something in you go quiet while you were reading it. That's usually the one you need most. Start there. Let the rest come later, the way everything worth keeping usually does. If this helped, you know what to do. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. If you start with even one of these today, you'll notice the difference. Let me know in the comments, which one are you trying first?